Hey everyone, Apex here, today with another Total War Shogun 2 Avatar Conquest multiplayer battle. We've got my forces over here in the black and white. Then we have the enemy's forces who, this time it is also a traditional Shogun 2 army. They have a bunch of katana samurai, there's some Yari Ashigaru, bow samurai, even, oh he's got warrior nuns here, and I think there's some Nodachis in there as well. He's kind of heavily concentrated his troops on this flank. Over on my side, I've got 2 units of cav. I took some fire cav and some Yari cav just to make sure I had cav superiority. This is only a medium funds battle, so I didn't think there'd be too much. I figured 2 units would be plenty. For my main body of the army here, it's kind of going for a pike and shot kind of style of army. So I've got my shot, I've got 3 units of matchlock Ashigaru, and then I have my pike. I've got Yari Ashigaru right behind them to provide any support and allow them to retreat behind if they need it. And just a flex between these 3 sections, I've got some Lone Sword Ashigaru. Pretty good units, very cost effective, and pretty good damage dealers once they're leveled up. And then on the flanks, I've got some Naginato attendants, which I just had some extra cash to buy, and some Bulletproof Samurai, which are like probably one of the better units in the entire game. They last a long time in the fight. They have good damage output, good armor, good melee defense and attack. And they're Yari Samurai, technically. So they get rapid advance. They're extremely fast and hard hitting as well. Over here, tucked away, I've got my last sword unit, some Wako Raiders. I had them start ahead of the battle all the way up over here because they have Kisho training, so they're going to cap this point really quick, give myself some nice armor and melee defense bonuses. And that'll be helpful against a pretty heavily melee focused army. In the center, we've got the farmhouse for more stamina movement speed, and on this flank, we have melee attack and charge. So at the beginning of this fight, I did have the retainer that allowed me to see where he was. So I knew he wasn't coming up here, although I figured he would probably try to defend around here. So I had most of my army, but around this time, I kind of noticed that it looked like he was sending more and more men over here, and he was going to try and take the sword dojo, which for a pretty heavily melee focused army with a lot of katanas and some Nodachis, getting that extra melee attack and charge would be devastating to my men. So I peeled off about 2/3 of my main force and sent them over here to see if I can contest any pushes he's gonna send along this way. And I just had one section come over here by this farmhouse to hold it, just so I could cap it. The movement speed would be nice. It'll help out my cav a bunch, and it'll get my Wako Raiders hopefully back in time before the fight finishes. I've got my bodyguard here. Now, my bodyguard, he is pretty high level, and I've taken the bow route. He actually has both ranged upgrades, so he can outrange enemy bowmen. So I figured since the enemy's got some bow samurai units, and they're going to be able to outrange my Ashigaru, I needed to start picking shots away at them and trying to kill as many as I could. And the only thing that I could do that safely with was my bodyguard. So you'll see me use him pretty aggressively here. You can see the enemy, he's actually bringing his bodyguard up over to guard this Yari Ashigaru. Now, he doesn't see my Yari Cav here, and they really have not moved since the very start of the game, so he might have forgotten. But those Yari Ashigaru are a scary threat once they are put into Yari Wall. Yari Ashigaru are probably the single most cost-effective unit in this entire game, and they are just really, really good to begin with. So, as you can see, my fire cavalry is coming around. I've capped this. I'm moving the Waka Raiders out. And these units here, I had them set up here, but you'll see that since most of his units are just coming straight up to this top, I'm going to reorganize my army any second here. We go into real-time speed. Yep, right there I reorganize it. Kind of shift my men around. My bulletproof samurai, these guys are good against matchlocks, charging them down. I figured if they happen to get spotted and shot by some bow samurai hiding in the woods, it's really not going to injure them, so I pushed them up here. Just to get something close. Maybe he'll forget about them. The way this guy is playing, he struck me as someone who was a little newer, so I was hoping once I got these bulletproof samurai in the forest and had him sit there, he might forget that they're in there or slip up and make a mistake. As you can see, my bodyguard does start taking a few shots. It doesn't really work whatsoever. I mean, I get like 12 kills on the katana samurai and 2 volleys, which is nice, but I was aiming for these bow samurai. Only managed to sneak one of them, but that's just the angle of the hill just was not helping me. So I pulled back just because I noticed his bow samurai were moving. And I didn't want to risk losing my general. My fire cav, you can see, is still coming around the side. And my matchlocks are starting to open fire, and just a single volley of matchlocks killed almost 15 samurai. An amazing unit. Bring these Ashigaru up here just to support the flank. And down here I've split. I've got these units here. You see the bulletproof samurai are going in because I noticed some extended units here. He sends some katana in, which katana have better melee attack, but bulletproof samurai have significantly better melee defense and significantly better armor than katana samurai. So I knew even if I don't do that well, if they get it around my sides or send an extra unit in, those bulletproof samurai are going to hold up 1, 2, 5 units as 3 bow units are also targeting it. They're going to hold that up for a while. Move it back down to slow motion here. My Yari Ashigaru are holding off this line. You can see I pulled the matchlock Ashigaru back through them and spread them out. If there's open gaps in the line, they're going to start shooting through. And I brought my lone swords out. They're going to hit down these Nodachi who are coming over here. And my Naginata attendants, actually, they're fast. Very good, cheap dirt unit just for fodder, but they snuck up on the Avatar's bodyguard of my the enemy general here. And Naginata have bonus first cab, so they're going to deal a lot of damage. As you can see, I've got 10 in before he can even get another unit in to help. And over here, I've got more matchlock. I'm trying to get more shots in as I can, and these lone swords are supposed to stop them. I want to delay those units as long as possible just to get shots in with my matchlocks. Look at all of that damage just pouring in on these Yari Ashigaru. A couple men die, and if they charge, I just pull them back through the Yari. My Yari cam. So I noticed over here, he's committed all of his melee troops at this point in the fight, except for this one Nodachi over here. So I figured, let's send my Yari cav in right over to this bow samurai. I got my fire cav coming in behind. 2 units of good cav, probably some of the better cav in the game. Although fire cav is the single best cav in the game in my opinion. Are gonna mop this up easily, and you can see my bulletproof samurai actually fully killed and routed off one of his 2 katana samurai that it was fighting against, and the other one is now losing against my bulletproof samurai. Over here you can see his units came in. My Walker Raiders have arrived, and they're gonna smash these warrior nuns and Yari samurai that he sent at my Yari Ashigaru right in the back. That'll finish rounding off those units. And then my lone swords coming over here, and lone swords fighting Yari. And yes, Yari should beat lone swords normally, but lone swords, once they're veteran, even just 2 or 3 times, you put that into their melee attack, or in one point into melee defense, and they will outcompete Yari samurai. Partially because the lone sword Ashigaru have 30 extra men, which means they have all that extra damage output, but they're mostly held behind by low melee attack and morale. As you can see, I've actually routed their Yari samurai without taking more than just more than a third of my total casualties. As you can see, my charges from my cap completely broke them there, and the bulletproof samurai are gone. So I'm going to start bringing my forces down over to here just to contest this, because I'm still pretty scared down here. Nodachi are scary, Yari Ashigaru are scary, and my lone swords here are stuck fighting Nodachi, who will deal a ton of damage in that fight. And as you can see here, his Yari Ashigaru and his general's bodyguard charge into my Yari so aggressively that they actually buckle the entire line. This line of the Yari Ashigaru should be all the way out here, but it buckled in 15-20 feet, and now they're actually mixed in with my matchlocks, who I was hoping would be able to get some shots off on their avatar bodyguard. But with the skirmishers of the enemy dead, I bring my fire cav and Yari cav in here to get some rear charges off, just to finish rounding off these units. All of my forces are beginning to reposition at the top of this hill. My matchlocks are in position. They'll get a couple shots off, although it's a bit of a bad angle. Sorry for the voice crack there. It's a bit of a bad angle for the matchlocks. We'll get this back going to regular speed. There's pretty much nothing left. He's got some bow samurai that rallied in the back, but they've got so little morale. I knew if I was able to manage killing his general fast, they were going to rout, and I wouldn't even have to worry about sending something back to fight them. And considering they're not even really moving at all, I don't even think he is paying attention to it. My fire cab smashed into the back of his avatar bodyguard, routing it, and that's the end. His units were completely routed off the field. He did manage to secure most of the sword dojo, I believe, but I contested it enough that he never got those melee bonuses. So let's back out here. Let's see how our units did. The Pike shot did do very well. Hopefully we'll see that actually show up here. Kills. Let's sort by kills. Fire cav. Yes, an amazing cav. I lost 2 guys and killed 191 men. That is insanely good. My bulletproof samurai, who were matched into a 2v1 in melee with missile support on the opponent's side, only lost just over a third of their unit and managed to kill 180 men. Lone swords again. Phenomenal job. 150 kills. Only lost 50. The Yari cav did fairly well. More Yari Ashigaru. And this enemy was, because he was so melee focused, my matchlocks never really had a good chance to actually get shots on. But even still, one of mine managed to get 85 kills, which is pretty great. And they were really not used that much throughout this entire fight. Then you got the rest of my Ashigaru, Waco Raiders, my Nagion attendants got 20 kills. Those were all the enemy's general's bodyguards. So that was pretty worth it for a unit that only cost 220. My general's bodyguard, who I kind of forgot about after I first skirmed with them, but 18 kills is fine. I didn't lose him, and it wasn't so rough of a fight that I needed to commit him. On the opponent's side, let's see here. Yeah, a lot of Yari Samurai, Ashigaru, Katana. Very, very, very melee focused army for him. What I'd recommend is probably pay a little passively for him. Take some initiative with your bow samurai. They have better range than anything I've got. Use them to ward off my general from coming in close and pick away at my lines before you go to engage. Because you had range superiority. We had equal number of skirmisher units, and yours just had better range. Even though mine hit harder, you'd be able to take him out if you were a little bit more patient. I would also recommend trying to contest at least 2 objectives. He kind of jumped onto 1, allowed me to take 2 fairly easily, which those objectives give very big bonuses. That and Nodachi Samurai, they're pretty fragile. So to everyone watching, these guys, tons and tons of damage, but once you lead them in sustained fight, they go down like crazy fast. Like these Nodachi, all of their kills probably came from their charge. And then they were just torn to pieces by units that actually have melee attack and melee defense. Because Nodachi Samurai, I believe at base, only have 1 or 2 melee defense. That's like the amount Matchlock Ashigaru have in melee defense, if that tells you how weak their defense is. They just have a ton of charge bonus and a ton of melee attack. They will dish out so much damage, but they have to be supported. Now, his Yari Samurai were fairly effective. They just got bogged down fighting katana units, my lone swords, and that's not how you want to use Yari Samurai. These are a flanker unit. You want to use them to get around the enemy lines, hit squishy targets, or try to support your cav, because they do have that anti-cav bonus. They'll tear through your cav. What you don't want to do is what this guy did and just charge him straight into a sword unit. Yeah, you might get kills if it's a weak sword unit or a lone sword that hasn't been ranked up, but it's just not worth it. They'll die. They'll die in sustained combat, kind of like the Nodachis. They'll last longer, but that's just not how you want to use Yari Ashigaru. Yari Samurai. And his Yari Ashigaru, that was pretty scary what he did there at the end, where he kind of buckled my line. But for his Yari, I'd recommend make sure you guys are using Yari Wall. It's just such a good ability in so many situations. And when you're charging Yari into Yari and your opponent has Yari Wall up, but you don't, your Yari Ashigaru is going to get destroyed. It's going to go terribly. I don't know if this is... Well, this is only Yari Ashigaru, so I know it was that one. 50 kills. That's probably mostly from... Where are they? My Naginata attendants. That's probably mostly from them. I don't think he actually killed that many of my Yari Ashigaru. I don't know which one of these guys he was fighting, but... yeah, just make sure you're using Yari Wall. Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.